mafia to ensure Fidel Castro's rise to power. In 1960, when Castro succeeded as dictator of Cuba, he ousted the mafia. US businesses and agricultural estates were expropriated. Cuba then formed a trade alliance with the greatest enemy of the USA, Russia. And thus was sown the seed of a lifelong discord between Cuba and the US. Why does the US have an inherent hatred for Fidel Castro? Why does America fear this man's doctrines? Fidel Castro is one of the few men who has been wise to the propaganda and capitalist aims of the Western governments. He and his country endured in hostile climates, intact and unbroken, independent of capitalist control. When Fidel Castro turned to Russia, he became the first Western Atlantic country to become communist. This closed the door to the billions of enterprise that lay in Cuba for American investors. The mafia was looking for a country where they could operate above the law. Castro denied them this sordid privilege. The result for communist Cuba was years of sanctions and negative propaganda. Cuba was forced into a state of abject poverty. The silent war of attrition saw many presidents pass before Castro, with the intention to break him, and thus force open the doors to American enterprise and trade. A trade that, as in the case of Puerto Rico, sucks a country of its resources while filling the bellies of American capitalists on American soil. With war on the horizon, large contracts have to be issued. Someone needs to make the weapons of mass destruction, medicine, guns, and computers. In Britain and the US, gun companies and shipping yards have generated sources of wealth. In 1974, a Soviet diesel submarine with nuclear capability sunk to its death a few hundred miles off the coast of Hawaii. In one of the largest salvage covert operations of all time, the US government security contracted multi-billionaire Howard Hughes for a 2-year project worth millions. Howard Hughes was to use his industrial might and competence to design and build the mighty vessel to carry out the operation. One of the largest ships of the day was constructed to secretly hoist the wrecked submarine from its watery grave. The nature and details of this recon mission until this day are darkly kept secrets. But it is for sure that war and rumors of war have for a long time been a source of great financial gain. Interest is a system designed where money loaned generates money as a principle of service. The money loaned is lost by way of spending while the debt endures. The debate concerning interest on the social economic platform is not a new thing. The philosopher Plato regarded interest as a means where the rich could exploit the poor. Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, believed that money was to serve as an exchange and not as a means to profit by use of interest. In the religious text of the Torah, Deuteronomy 23, interest is prohibited. You are not to exact interest on a fellow man, whether it be money or food or anything else. Interest cannot be charged. This was conveniently interpreted, however, by some Jews to mean Jew to Jew, hence making it legal to charge interest to non-Jews. At the Council of Nicaea in Christian era 325 AD, Emperor Constantine forged the Trinity, despite the strong opposition from the Christians of the time. However, on the subject of interest, the emperor failed to sway the uncompromising Christians. The Church's decision was to cause friction for centuries in Europe. European merchants, in an attempt to circumvent the Church, deployed many legal tricks, including one where 3 parties were involved, contractus trinus. Eventually, interest came to be charged in Europe in abundance, and eventually the Church gave in, neglecting the Bible in favor of democratic decree. In 1541, English law allowed the interest to be charged up to a fixed limit. Any excess of this was then considered unlawful. The Church that had held out for centuries had finally given in completely. One Christian writer is noted as having stated that interest was necessary for salvation. Islam is the only religion on earth that incorporates in totality all aspects of a complete financial and government system. Islam thus combines the spiritual and the habitual. The issue of interest is made clear in the Holy Quran. O you who believe, fear God, and give up what remains of your claim of interest if you are truly believers. If you do not, then take notice of war from God and His apostles. In the history of Islam, there has never been any dispute by any person or persons, groups or individuals to this Quranic verse, and interest in Islam still remains forbidden. The interest-issuing groups who make billions upon billions have devised many ways to color and cloak many interest-generating systems. From bank accounts which accumulate interest to credit card debts that are not settled before interest is applied, many people who are adverse to interest are caught up in its web in some way or another. Today, many bank accounts incur interest, and this is unfortunately seen as not a big issue. However, it is. Both the gaining and the issuing of interest is clearly prohibited by God's law. It is very easy for customers to write letters to their high street branches and request that no interest be added to accounts in credit. O you who believe, fear God, and give up what remains of your claim of interest if you are truly believers. If you do not, then take notice of war from God and His apostles. They who control the credit of a nation direct the policy of government and hold in the palm of their hands the destiny of the people. After billions upon billions have been made, money as powerful and lust after as it is, wears thin. There is little lifestyle difference between someone with 20 million and 200 million. Money can only go so far. Power becomes the new sport, and world politics is the height of that game. It is fair to say a conscious or unconscious global banking conspiracy is in existence in our midst today. Names such as Barings of England, Rothschild, JP Morgan, Warburg. International bankers such as the Rothschilds are not the same type of bankers seen on the public high street. They deal with industrial giants of the world's institutions and local and foreign governments. The international banker creates the illusion that the money is being controlled by the government, when all the while it is being controlled by them. Rockefeller owned the Chase Bank, and the Warburgs owned the Manhattan Bank